Hello and welcome to the second episode of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Mike Barrera here. And we've got plenty to talk about this week, all Union, and hopefully we might have some MLS talking, depending on some technical issues. But obviously, Mike, positive week for Union football / soccer.
Yeah, Dave, it was a lot of fun. I think before this week, we talked about getting 4 points total at least, and we got exactly that. I don't care how we got them, and I'm a happy camper.
Same as me. I think, as we said, if we can come away from Atlanta with a point or more, it would have been the perfect scenario. They did exactly that. And then we'll get into the Columbus Crew game in a little bit, but another perfect professional performance. We'll jump right into things. Obviously, the latest news of what's happened over the past week. But before we get into that, obviously, we had a question from Eric last week regarding the the US Open Cup. Mike, do you want to take that away?
Initially, I looked up I saw an article back from April, and I'm pulling it up right now on my phone. They said they were talking about it not being held at all. But I know, Dave, you talked to me earlier today, and you said you found that they're going to have a 16-team tournament at some point. They're going to just kind of figure the logistics out of it. So it seems like it's a very much to be decided type of situation. Would you agree there, based off what you found online?
Yeah, I think it's. I think they said they were hoping to host it later in the season. Apparently, there were some financial issues with the tournament. Apparently, but it was going to be like 16 teams, 4 from the MLS, and then 4 from I think the USL, and then I think another 8 teams from loads of other leagues in America. But obviously, yeah, I think it's quite a complicated sort of cup competition this year. Hopefully, they can get it full blast next year once things have calmed down.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath that it starts this year. So we'll see.
No, yeah. And obviously, jumping into the news this week, obviously, I was lucky enough to be in the press conference earlier today with Jim Curtin, and I actually asked him the question regarding the green cards for Kai Wagner and Kasper Shabirko. After our show last week, news came out that apparently they were going to be awarded given green cards, meaning they wouldn't count against the foreign designated list players. And Curtin all but confirmed that in his press conference earlier today, saying it would give them flexibility in the upcoming transfer market. So, what do you think of sort of that? What do you think of that news?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, obviously, you already see Fontana go down. Gazdag's gone down. Unfortunately, Sergio Santos doesn't have the best health track record at times. I mean, he's still a great player, but we can't always rely on him. So you want to see something being done over the summer to hopefully boost this depth on this roster, whether it be in the midfield, at striker, wherever it might be. We want to see this team make a deep run, so they're going to need the bodies to do so. So hopefully that allows one more person to come on board.
Oh, absolutely. I think obviously it opens up 2 spaces for them to perhaps go off into Europe or into South America and pick out a couple of players. And as I've been saying to you constantly, probably since we've ever started talking about the Union, the one thing they need is a quick winger, a quick wide player to take them up the pitch. And I think now they've got the extra spaces, they can look at South America, they can look in Europe and try and get that winger that can probably give them that extra dimension in attack, which they perhaps don't have in games at the moment. I think if they can get that winger that can drive them up the pitch and lead counter-attacks, I think in games like we saw against Atlanta in the second half when they were pinned in, if you can get that winger that can stretch the game a bit and put the defense on their toes, it can do so much more for a team. The team's confidence in they've got that one player who can get them up the pitch. I think that's the one thing they need. If they can find a quick, pacey winger.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, Jim has talked about this time and time again. They are not a team that's built to score a lot of goals. They're built to score 1 goal and then hold the lead. But the problem is that eventually your players are going to go cold. So having more attackability, I guess you want to call it, will help this particular squad for sure.
Absolutely. And obviously, you look at sort of the players that they have. They do play out wide in the midfield. You've got Leon Flack, who's probably not the quickest player. And then you've got Ali Bedoya, who's 36 years old. And you think when you're in a road game like against Atlanta, where you are pinned in, you haven't got much of the ball. They're probably not the most ideal players to perhaps have when, as Curtin said, they're not built to score loads of goals. They're not built to dominate games. They're more built to hit on the counter attack. You need that sort of player will be perfect for his philosophy.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I love Ali, obviously, but there are times when he looks a little bit gassed out there. So eventually, as he gets older, you're going to need to add to that the right side of the pitch and kind of get someone younger out there who can play just as well as Bedoya does.
Oh, absolutely, and obviously with those two potential, with those two new foreign designated player roster spots opening up, it gives them a lot of flexibility, as Jim said. So I'm quite excited to see what Ernest Tanner can do in the transfer window. And
Definitely.
obviously, moving on, obviously we have got some other Union news. 20-year-old Leon Flark is could potentially be in the US men's team Gold Cup team. And so what an incredible rise for him, going from St. Pauli's Academy to the Union and then potentially to the American first team. What an incredible rise for him.
It's great. So right at the end of yesterday's game, he was running towards the box where I was sitting at, and as soon as the whistle blew, you could see the excitement just pour out of him. And he's just a fun player. He's really got a lot of energy, a lot of heart. So I'm really happy for him. It's going to suck for the Union. He's actually one of the more important players right now on this team. So it's going to be a tough blow. We're going to have McGlynn step up big time when he's gone for sure.
Yeah, and as you said, obviously, fingers crossed, Jose Martinez is back soon. I've seen that Venezuela got a big game against Peru coming up. They lose that, they're at the Copa America, so Jose will be coming back to us very soon and we can get him back in there. But the interesting thing is that it's a 60-man preliminary squad for the US team. So, I mean, Flark's chances are, for a young player that has never played for the US team before, I think are quite slim. No disrespect to him, he's a great player, but I think with the manager's obviously got a team in mind. He's used to the players he's got, so it's going to be a bit of an uphill climb for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it will be. I mean, obviously, I would like to see him in there just to be able to cheer on a Union player, and I wouldn't be disappointed if he stays around for us. So, we'll wait and see and kind of root for him either way.
Oh, exactly, 100%. If he stays, it's more than ideal. You've got more depth to use in that big run, they're going to have throughout the summer leading up to the CONCACAF Champions League. But then there's also 3 other Union players that are also in Gold Cup squads, and you probably might have 3 times the chance to cheer for them because they all play for Jamaica, with Andre Blake, Alvis Powell, and Corey Burke all being named to the Jamaica preliminary team.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I mean, Alvis Powell came in last night, which I was actually a bit surprised by. It's kind of hard to put someone into the game at the very final minute when you're only up by a goal, especially with the crew we're attacking at that point pretty steadily. But I expect Blake to be great. I'm praying that he doesn't get hurt. I think it was a couple years he did bang up his finger, so hopefully he can just make it to the tournament and come back here as soon as possible.
100%. Obviously, Blake and Powell have made a lot of caps for the US team. But speaking about Powell, I was actually he was only on for a minute or two, but I was actually, with the touches he had, I was quite impressed with the way he was able to pass the ball down the wing and with the vision he had on the ball. So that's quite an exciting player that we could see, depth player in the future.
I was just about to say that. Actually, you reminded me. So as soon as he got the ball on the right side, he had a nice pass, probably about 15 yards down the line. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't anything too crazy difficult, but it was just a precise pass to get it out of danger. That's what you want to see from someone of his level. Just a calm, cool attitude out.
No, 100%. You see a lot of players in those sort of situations. When you are down late, they'll get the ball and they'll just hoof it long, get rid of it, and just sort of wait for the next attack. So I think, again, that's a sort of calm composure you'd like to see. I mean, looking at those 3 players, I don't think Corey Burke will make the squad. No disrespect to him. A lot of players playing in the English leagues and some of the bigger European leagues starting to now choose to play for Jamaica instead of playing for their own national team. So I think this could be Jamaica's chance to sort of shoehorn them into their team and get them the caps they need so they can become Jamaican players.
Yeah, we were talking over Messenger last night about Corey Burke and how well he played in the first half. I thought he was just 1 goal away from being the man of the match, in my opinion. I thought he was excellent last night. So with like I said, Sergio having his health issues at times, and Casper, you can't rely on Casper every single game. Obviously, he didn't score last night. You can't count on him, so you need Burke to be there. As soon as he's in the game, especially when he starts, he's always producing at a high level. So I really don't want to see Burke go.
That's same here. I think we could be blessed to see him probably left out. I think Jamaica have got a lot of talented attacking players, so it could be a blessing in disguise seeing all those new names, influx of names coming into that squad. And then looking as well, obviously, was some big but unusual news that came out regarding the Union over the weekend was that Rob McElhenney's new owned team Wrexham are going to be coming to Philly to play the U over the summer for pre-season. Obviously, I think that will come during the I think it's like
July.
the July August break, isn't it? When usually the All-Star game happens. Is that a game you'll be going to?
You know what? I will. I think I'm gonna go. I'll try to go at least. I know I believe it's free to enter. They want you to bring a can goat or some sort of donation as your ticket in type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be fun. Wait, now if I'm correct, they're from the United Kingdom, aren't they? Like right by they're in Wales, right?
Yeah, Wrexham is in Wales. They're in the 5th division of English football as well, actually. So they're in what we call non-league, the National League.
And how would you rate them compared to the MLS league or them? Do you know anything about them from just watching football?
Yeah, no, I worked for a team in that league called Eastleigh last season, so I know a bit about Wrexham, and obviously they're quite a big names team. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bootlegger.
No, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you're gonna be the expert on this one. Yeah.
I mean, if after this, search Bootlegger up on YouTube. Search him up. He's a big. I mean, it's got some of the attention of Philly fans, American people already. So search him up after this. You will not be disappointed. But I think it'll be an interesting game. I think in comparison from the National League to the MLS, National League's here, MLS is up here in terms of standard, in terms of money. So I think it should probably be an easy win for the Union, but I think it'd be a chance for Curtin to be able to mix some of the Union 2 players, the academy players, and the first team together. I think that'd be a nice game for him to experiment.
Yeah, that's what I would like to hope to see, just to get kind of a familiarity with the guys we don't get to see play very often. For example, Quinn Sullivan, for example, somebody who comes in a couple minutes here or there. What can he do in 45 minutes, 50, 60, 70 minutes? That's what I want to see out of these friendlies, to kind of give the younger guys a chance against a more higher level competition.
Well, it's interesting you bring Quinn Sullivan up because Jim Curtin made some very interesting and very praiseful comments in his press conference about him earlier today. So I'll bring that up a bit later when we review the Columbus Crew game. But looking ahead of the injury updates, going into what's happened over this week, obviously Anthony Fontana missed yesterday with a concussion. I feel a bit sorry for him because he's had a bit of a rough season so far. He hasn't been able to get going. Then to get that concussion is going to push him back. Obviously, I know you had some comments you wanted to make about his performance on Sunday against Atlanta.
Yeah, well, last season, it was very much a Fontana, crowd in the background for, they wanted to see him more on the pitch. They wanted him to start. When he came in on his subs, I mean, he was, electric at times, putting the ball into the net. It was a shame when the Atlanta game came around, he had this wide open shot and he couldn't put it away. So I really haven't been too impressed from his starts. I think many can agree that, they want to see more out of him. So you he can play, he can score. You just want to have him finally break through. And like you said, it sucks. This concussion just puts everything back. And he finished the game, if I remember correctly. At least played another several minutes. So I don't know. I don't know how serious it is. And actually, I think he was replaced in the 70th minute. But regardless, you want to see more from him, and hopefully he's okay.
Oh, 100%. I think it's probably a confidence thing as well. I think most strikers probably take a touch out. The amount of space he had up wide to his left, he could have taken a touch and shot, which was the same thing.
Yep.
Just take a touch out and shoot. You got so much space. Some very, very hopeful news regarding Daniel Gazdag, though. Jim Curtin reckons that he might be able to. He could be able to play a part in Saturday night's game. He thinks he could play a part.
Well, that's awesome. I know I haven't even heard that yet because I was working today. So it's great news to hear that as a fan. As soon as you heard it from the Euros, you held your breath. You're hoping he was okay. It looks like he will be okay. So when he played against DC United, it really wasn't a big sample size because they were playing so defensively at the time of his entry. So give me 60, 70 minutes of him, or at least 40 minutes of him actually pushing towards the net, putting the ball in play, and hopefully he can get his first goal just to show that he can, fit in well with the MLS.
I think obviously Saturday night's game could be the perfect scenario for him. Obviously, road games in the MLS aren't as easy as they perhaps are, or as simple as they are in Europe. Because obviously you got to deal with the different climate. There's so many different factors that go into road games in the MLS. So hopefully it could be a game that he can come into and actually have an impact on the game if he does come into the game on Saturday night. And then positive news about Ali Bedoya. who Jim says it's just a bit of a knock, and he's hoping he should be able to get and play a part. It was just a bit of rough and tumble. Really, should be good to go.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, even though Bedoya is not our best player on the field, he is very much the leader of the team, and the
Yeah.
team will go as he goes. And if he's producing a high level, everybody else around him produces better. So, especially with his relationship that he's built with Mbaizo, it's very important that he's playing right now because they have developed a good relationship over the last couple of weeks, couple of months. And you saw it last night. You know, Olivier goes down the line, he crosses into the box, the ball ricochets back to Montero, and he scores. That's started by Mbaizo's nice cross into the box. So we want to keep that pairing on the right side for as long as we can. Hopefully the captain's okay.
Oh, 100%. I think, obviously, in terms of the injury news, apart from Fontana, it's been quite a positive week for the Union, when perhaps in other weeks it hasn't been as positive, with obviously seeing other players go out injured. Obviously, it's good news again that Corey's obviously come through yesterday, although he was bruised and battered. He's come through healthy and should be able to play. But looking at the game yesterday, obviously, you were there. First game in over 600 days with a full capacity crowd. You were there in the press area. What was the atmosphere like? What was it like breathing it all in and just being able to soak it up?
So you messaged me right around like 6:45 or so, and it was still kind of quiet, but it was one of those like quiet before the storms. Like it was just eerily quiet through the whole stadium. And then the fans started trickling in, and then right before halftime, it was probably about, 80% of to what it was by the middle of the match, and you could just feel the energy every single big play, every single move, every single pass. When the goal was scored by Miro, I believe in the 24th minute, you could just feel like the building shake underneath your feet in the box. So it was something that I haven't felt in a long time at Subaru Park. So it was just a great experience. I cannot absolutely wait to go back. It was just I'm so excited to go back there.
I mean, exactly. It's, the sporting events, football events / soccer aren't ever the same without the fans. Having the fans there just adds extra element, adds that extra buzz when the goal goes in and things like that. Obviously, I guess the only sort of pro is, as a media member, when you do go to games with an empty stadium, is you can hear everything that everyone's shouting and saying, which you perhaps wouldn't have the luxury of getting if you were at a game with fans. But obviously, from a press point, you were there in the press area. What was that like yesterday? What was it like with a full stadium, a full press area with everyone there? What was it like?
So the press box was about the same capacity in terms of the people actually in the box. I was actually expecting more press members, so that was, I guess, a bit different, about the same as it was previously. But just in terms of the view, I mean, it's just great to see it from that perspective. The entire stadium filled, and it was loud, like I mentioned. I really can't get over how loud it was from there, and it's. Yeah, I'm glad they won because the fans deserve to come back home and to see a big win like that, especially the Crew, who we haven't seen in 2 years or so.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, as Eric said, it just feels normal again. I think that's what we've all wanted from sports, and that's the thing that's been missing from all sporting events since we've got them back in last summer, is just having that atmosphere again, having that atmosphere to live off. And I think that's what probably made yesterday's win so much more entertaining, so much more exciting, so much more worthwhile. Really, it was worth the wait. And obviously, as you said, 1-0 win. Jimiro Montero with the goal. What do you think of his goal?
I thought it was just done perfectly by Miro. Calm, cool, and collected. A lot of players would just shoot that well over the bar, and he just struck it perfectly. It did ricochet into the net, but I think it would have gone in regardless.
Yeah.
It was just, what do you expect from someone of that caliber in that wide open spot?
And as you said, it's a chance where a lot of players they'd either hit it straight, as you said, over, they'd shoot it wide, or they'd, obviously with the three players at the line, including the goalkeeper, they hit it straight into the defender or the goalkeeper. Obviously, Montero was able to perfectly curl it on the ground, through the goalkeeper, through the defender, into the back of the net. And I thought it was a very perfectly well taken goal and very smart finish from Montero. Obviously, looking at another key talking point from the game was Matt Real's red card. And you were there in the stadium again.
Oh,
obviously,
my gosh.
Shake your head. And I shake my head as well. That was an awful refereeing decision. The fact it was a booking, a yellow card as well, was an awful decision. It was a perfect challenge. For you in the press area, what did it look like having that sort of like bird's eye view on it?
All right, so I'm going to talk on a couple things here because so I saw it. It was obviously right in front of me at the time. Matt had made the tackle going away from me, so I saw the back of the play. If I remember from the replay, the official was also in the same direction as I was, but it certainly looked worse than it was. at
Yeah.
first. When you saw the replay, you realized how, basically bang bang it was. It really wasn't an intentional attacking of the Columbus Crew player, but it kind of going back to the crowd situation. The entire place erupted, like literally probably louder than the goal when it was scored, because it was ridiculous. Because Casper had, I told you already at the game, Casper had been taken down 2 or 3 times. Burke had been roughed up a bunch, and the whistles had been silent. Well, the
Solid.
whistle, the cards had been silent for
Yeah.
the most. Obviously, Matan, I believe, got a card when he brought down Wambizo, but that was really about it leading up to that point. So it was frustrating. I'm glad VAR actually did its job and he reversed it, because I think they would have tied that game if the red card had been held up.
Oh, 100%. I think things could have gone very badly had the red card stayed in. But I think looking at it from the TV replays, obviously at the time when he went in, you thought, oh, no, no, no. But you saw him win the ball, like, oh, for goodness sake. The way the referee approached it and looked at it, you knew who was going to get the red card out. But on the replay, obviously, it was a bouncing ball, so he had to go in with his leg up a bit. But he made contact with the ball about 2 yards before he came, 2-3 yards before he came anywhere near the player. By the time he got the player, his foot was on the ground, sliding across, and you thought, it's not even a yellow card. He's won the ball perfectly clean. That's what frustrates me, I think.
I didn't understand the card in general, but I mean, I
No.
feel like if he's going to take off the red, he's still going to leave the yellow just for
Yeah.
the sake of it. So I mean, I'm just shocked because Matt Real is not someone who typically gets into trouble or has some sort of bad reputation. Like, if that was Jose Martinez, I would be like, okay, I can see why he's getting yellow based off his reputation. But Matt Real doesn't play much, so it was a bit surprising for sure.
For sure, and it would have felt really bad for him because obviously he's been one of the younger players in the team that's been waiting for his chance to sort of have that breakthrough. I think he's been unlucky at the fact that Kai Wagner has played so well this season, been so consistently good.
And he's been healthy. Last year he wasn't healthy for parts of the season, so you saw more of Matt Real. So yeah, you can't replace, but you can't take Kai out of there. You can't. He has to start every single match. So it's unfortunate for Real.
I think Real started one game this year. I think it was it the loss to New NYCFC he played, wasn't it?
I don't remember off the top of my head. But if Leon Flock does end up going to the Gold Cup, I mean, there's a good chance we see more of Real. Obviously, I mean, it's either going to be McGlynn or him in the left part of the diamond. So I would say, you're going to see more of him soon, I'm sure.
Well, as we mentioned last week, obviously Real could play in the diamond. Jim Curtin reckons that Matt Real's best position is left wing back.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think he can be a little bit versatile for sure. I know Kai has mentioned liking Leon in front of him, but there's more to see from him for sure.
Yeah, I think he's more of an attacking defender, a bit like Bizo, who's probably better going forward. Whereas what I really like about Kai is he's got the perfect balance between attack and defense. He's one of those rare fullbacks that can do both well. Whereas usually you get at this sort of level in the MLS and sort of the lower European leagues and the lower leagues in England and stuff like that, and fullback can either do one or the other. If he can do both, he's playing up in a high level. So I think Kai's probably one of those rare ones. And again, I don't know if you saw it earlier in the Premier League season. There were reports that Premier League teams were interested in Kai Wagner.
I saw that. Yeah, he's only like 23, 24 years old. He's just a young kid, really. And to play as well as he does, it's just. It'd be unfortunate to see him go, but it's the same thing with like Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie. You, as an MLS team, as a team who prides themselves on youth development, you do selling your products or your roster to foreign teams. So it's something that should be expected. But that's where we look to see Matt Real, what he can do in that position and how he can kind of grow into the role to replace Kai, in whether it be next season or the following.
But as you said, it's the sort of thing that the Union pride themselves on. They love to create and build up younger players to move them on or to make them first team regulars in the team. And as you said, obviously, it's about building that reputation as a team as well, not just in America, but globally, where players like Daniel Gazdag and obviously Kasper Jabirko can look at it and say, they've got a really good track record at building players up. This is where I want to go. I can go there and take that next step and then go to a bigger team. Which is perhaps that if a player like Kai Wagner then goes to the Premier League, that's that selling point for the Union to other teams.
That's a great point because The fans want the money that we're getting from players like McKenzie or to go to someone of significant reputation, but your team has to have that reputation first before you can bring the reputable players into the roster. So you said it perfect. Yeah. So it's if you can get Kyle Muir somewhere of a high, it benefits everyone in Philly for sure.
Oh, 100%. And looking at the games all yesterday, discussing individual player performances, as we mentioned, Corey Burke ran himself into the ground, worked so hard, did a lot on and off the ball in the hour he played. He just missed a goal, wasn't it? Just missed a goal, wasn't he?
He had a couple good strikes. I mean, the one header off the corner, he just sails it over. He actually had ran down the right side. I think Bedoya fed him into the box, and he had a strong shot of net. It unfortunately hit the side of the net. And like I mentioned, I think he was on the brink of scoring. Maybe if he didn't get banged up, he might have been able to put one in the back of the net. But we've seen this before from Corey when he starts. He just always comes out on a start right at the rock and roll. I thought he played great last night.
I think he's one of those players.
To say, I put my glasses on. I'm freaking blind otherwise. There you go. Oh, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it.
I was gonna say, Mike's probably one. I was gonna say you're the first. You might be the first host. I don't know. I'm sure someone, Phil or Chip, will check me up on this. But I think you might be the first host to ever sit outside and do a show.
My kid was not asleep yet, so I was like, let me go outside so I don't have to disturb anybody. And it's a beautiful night out. It's a little chilly. I wish I brought a jacket, but besides that, it's a good night.
So I was gonna say good parenting as well.
Yeah, right. A little bit of both.
Yeah. I was going to say, going back to obviously the individual performances, I thought Bizo looked very good yesterday. He looked very dangerous down that right hand side, attacking the fullbacks.
Yeah, I want to see him score so bad. I think he's so close to getting a score. He's obviously kind of already providing the assists, or at least the lead up to the assists that kind of puts the ball in the back of the net. But he's right on the brink of scoring. You can see it. He's taking good shots at goal already. I think he's just getting better and better and better. And honestly, I don't miss, as much as Gaddis was a valuable part of this roster, I don't miss him at all right now. I think Mbai's that well, and he's playing much better than Ray was the past couple of years, at least in
100%. I think he offers more going forward than Ray Gaddis did, which probably gets more the attention. I think obviously Gaddis last year was a very good player. I think Gaddis it's a shame really he decided to retire when he did, because I think he was starting to get better with age, as he perhaps did when he was younger.
Yeah, I think earlier on in his career, he made a lot of mistakes. He wasn't the best defender, and as you said, as he got older, he had that experienced composure, and he played well. He was a big important part of the Supporter Shield roster. So I can't say anything bad about Ray Gaddis. He was a great Union player overall, and but it's great to see Mbaizo come in and just fill his shoes, perfectly.
Yeah, and obviously Montero was another good game for Montero, as per usual. Always has a good game when he plays for the Union. Obviously, a good finish again. I think a lot of credit should be given to the two centre-backs for limiting the chances Columbus Crew had for pretty much 85 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up a stat right now that I had from about Zardes. So Zardes, obviously one of the Columbus Crew's best players. Over the last 5 games that he's played the Union. So this is the last 2 games in 2021, the 2 games in 2020, and then 2019 in September. So that's 5 games going back over 2.5 seasons. He's had 0 shots on goal in those 5 games. So it's unbelievable how well they're playing against him. And I thought, like you mentioned, the center backs came in and they did their jobs. They avoided any real danger it really wasn't a clean shot at goal minus Harrison's run on Blake at the end there. And I think the pairing of Elliott and Glesnes is just turning out to be just a great pairing for sure.
It's been perfect. I think obviously, last year it was Glesnes and McKenzie. That was the main one. Elliott would either deputise or he'd sit in front of the back four. This year he's slotted in, and they've like solidified themselves together so perfectly already. I'm really impressed with how far they've come along. And Elliott got so much praise in the press conference earlier today again. Jim Curtin obviously said that he was excellent yesterday. He was beyond excellent. He was fantastic with the way he shut Zardes down and did his job.
Well, so I'm going to do a slight comparison between Elliott and Glesnes. I think yesterday I saw one moment where Glesnes gets the ball and just kind of touches it to Blake, like a gentle touch to Blake to get it out of the zone. It was it was a bit careless at times. You know, he's had a couple moments. I think he had one ball where he chested towards Blake and ended up being a goal. So he does get a little bit careless with the ball in the box, in his own box, while Elliott is much more just get it out of there or find the outlet as fast as possible. So I would say if kind of Glessens can just be careful with those careless passes, I think he'll be more solidified in the back. But the center backs have been absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, 100%. I think, as you said, there was that heart and mouth moment when you played the ball back. I thought, oh, God, no, don't.
Oh, yeah. I held my breath there.
Yeah. But I guess it's you have the nice different styles of defender where Glasnes is probably the more modern day one where he's comfortable taking the ball out, as we've seen plenty of times, taking the ball out, dribbling, passing out the back, whereas Elliott's more safety first, defend the goal, do everything else afterwards, which I think it can work, especially in a team like the Unions where you've got Elliott who, if you are defending for your lives, you know Elliott is probably going to tell Glasnes to push that ball out, whereas vice versa, if the Union are on top, Glasnes can instruct over to Elliott, so just keep the ball, keep it calm.
No, that's a great point. And well, it's funny. We always talk about Andre Blake and how great he is, and how you can rely on him no matter what. You know, you can be more aggressive, you can be a little bit more careless at times because you know Andre Blake's back there to protect you. I think the same could be said about Elliott and Glessens as well. You can have Kai and Olivier go farther up. You can leave it to just three in the back with either Martinez or Flock and Elliott and Glessens. You can trust that they're going to do their job, because whenever you think a play is about to happen for the other team, they're always just right there at the right time to poke it away for a sliding tackle. I mean, you've seen Jack do, actually yesterday, Zelarayan dummies Elliott, and right there you think he's beat, and out of nowhere Elliott turns around, just clears it out with a sliding kick. So I mean, It's one of those moments where they're just never really beat at all.
No, absolutely. I remember Glesnes did a similar thing in it might have been the DC United game where looked like they were going to have a clear shot and goal, and just Glesnes came across the area with a sliding block, and you just thought, where's he come from to do that?
I believe you asked him that question, didn't you, in the press conference? I believe you. Yeah. No, it was again. It's the same exact thing with those two. They're always in the spot at the right time.
I think Jim Curtins has a lot of credit for getting that partnership right. Obviously, they brought Stuart Finley in from the Scottish Premier League from Kilmarnock, and I think it was, if one of them had had a rough start to the season, we could have easily seen Stuart Finley come in, take that place, and potentially hold that place on from till now. So I guess they've relished the competition that's come in, and Curtin's gotten it spot on for getting the right balance in that partnership.
Oh yeah, I mean, even bringing Elvis Powell, he can play obviously the right back. He's not necessarily center back, but he brings in that competition into the defense. You know, they want to make sure that they have high caliber players at the top and the second line. So the defense is great. I feel comfortable with basically anybody back there. Maybe Colin not so much, but overall, their depth is pretty strong on the defensive side.
Oh, 100%. And before we move on to the Atlanta game that happened on Sunday, Quinn Sullivan came on. I think this is probably the longest we've seen Quinn Sullivan play a competitive game for 20 minutes. How do you think he did?
I thought he did fine. I think one of his early touches, the ball was trickling towards the corner, towards the Columbus net, and you can see him kind of turn the jets on to get the ball in and end up going for a corner kick. But you want to see someone that age just, he may not have a goal, he may not play a huge factor, but he's trying as hard as he can to make a difference in the game, and that ended up going to the corner kick, and if that goes to a goal, then you say, wow, look at Quinn Sullivan hustling to get the ball into the box, goes for a corner kick, and everything else falls into place. So I thought he did fine.
As you said, he's hustling, and I think you could see the difference in pace in comparison to him and Ali Bedoya. Obviously, I think he was a lot more quicker. I think, obviously, I'm not bringing Ali Bedoya down. I think he's a great player, but you could see the difference in pace, the difference in sort of the quickness and sort of burst he had. And a really interesting comment. I didn't expect Jim Curtin to say this in his press conference, but he was so high of praise for Quinn Sullivan. When you would probably expect it to be Paxton Aaronson or for Jack McGlynn, he was so high in praise for a player that's only played 20 minutes. He said we should expect to see Sullivan's minutes increase as the season goes on. And for him, he thinks he's an excellent player. It's a matter of whether he's going to be a top player in the MLS or he's going to go off and play in Europe for a decent team in Europe.
Well, that's a lot of age to hear that, but at the same time, it's pretty exciting. You've heard Jim talk highly about Paxton. You've heard him talk highly about McGlynn. Jim will always promote his homegrown players and boost their confidence in front of the cameras and say, hey, he's doing great. But at the same time, he's not going to give them something if they don't deserve it. Which
No.
he's mentioned that as well. He said they don't get given anything. They have to earn everything. So if he is talking that highly about Quinn or Paxton or anybody else, it's because they've earned that respect. So it's really good to hear that, especially because we haven't really seen that much of him.
No, and I think it's quite telling as well because we've seen more of McGlynn than anyone, but it's Sullivan that's had probably the highest praise out of any of those young group of players. So obviously now it's obviously added it to his expectations going forward. But I'm really excited to see what Quinn Sullivan can do, not just this season, potentially breaking into the starting 11, but what he can do over the next 2-3 years.
Well, really quick before we transition to the next game, one thing that I noticed from yesterday was that Jim brought in substitutions at like the 56th minute or around the early parts of the second half, which is not typical of Jim Curtin. He usually waits until halfway through the second half to really do something with a sub. So I wonder if that's because of the Chicago game coming up. And I wonder if maybe he'll do the same thing in Chicago, maybe kind of bring out someone earlier and bring Quinn or another young player in. So interesting to see how Curtin continues the substitutions in the next match on this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. I think we'll bring on the Chicago game a bit further on in the show towards the end of the show. But obviously, Jim again made some interesting comments about what's it called, about sort of how he's going to approach the game regarding rotation and the players he's actually going to bring in. Obviously, moving on to the Atlanta game now. I think it wasn't just a talking point in US football; it was a global talking point. It got the attention of places in Europe with that goal. I don't know if we're able to pull the goal up now to show everyone how it was.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to get ready for that or not. But
have to get ready for that.
Yeah, so I saw online about 2 days ago. It was at 2.2 million views. The one that the Union had posted online. So it's not just getting local like recognition, like you said. It really is seen across the entire globe because it was that good of a shot. And also, I've never seen it hit a crossbar 3 times ever.
No, same. He struck it with such. He struck it with such velocity. I mean, I was watching it at the time. I don't know, and it reminded me of a goal in the Premier League when Vincent Kompany scored a similar goal for Man City against Leicester, where he somehow scored from like 30 yards, and he had players and fans in the stadium go, "No, pass." Yeah. I was doing that in my dining room table watching the game, shouting, "Pass, don't shoot." And I've just seen him strike it. I was like, hang on, hit the bar. I was like, it's got to go in. And I just remember stood up, I was like, no way. Oh my, I couldn't be, honestly, that one of the best goals I've seen in a long time. One of the best goals I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to watch another 50 times before the season ends. And yesterday at the stadium, people were just yelling, shoot every time he touches the ball. He could touch the ball right in front of Andre Blake, and they were saying shoot. So yeah. It was Glesnes now has a reputation for being a rocket of a leg.
It was an incredible goal, and as Eric said, Glesnes review over. I think again it was a game which just showed the fight, the passion, the determination, and the will that Union team has. That they're never down, they're never going to lose. There's a huge credit to Jim Curtin, and looking at sort of the game as a whole, going that first half, they go in 0-0, and they could easily be 2-3-0 up.
Yeah, it was one of those games you kind of expected out of Atlanta. They played well. They had the moments. Obviously, like Fontana, he had his biggest moment. I think that was probably the best goal scoring opportunity the Union had right in the beginning of that half. But I thought they could have easily gotten one in the half, and it was kind of once the second half came around. You mentioned to me over message, Atlanta was starting to kind of impose their will on the midfield. So yeah, it was. It was not the prettiest of games, and Jim said that last night. You don't want to tie games like that. You don't want to play the games like that very often.
No, and exactly. You don't get results of that, and especially, obviously, as mentioned, Fontana had that great chance. Santos had a very good chance to score. Gilberto had a good chance to score. Like in that first half, the Union had big chances to take that lead, and obviously, people are going to treasure that Glesnes goal for a long time. But that Glesnes goal may never have needed to happen if they go in 2 goals up at half time. They could have easily had the game sealed at half time.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that's true. Yeah, so we've been kind of pushing the narrative that the Union are the best team in Philly for a reason, because they play hard. They have won a trophy recently, so I'm sick and tired of all the Sixers and Flyers fans like pushing the Union down the totem pole. They're not. They should be in the conversation for one of the better teams in Philly. So yeah, I know.
Yeah,
The Union held on to a lead yesterday. The Sixers blew 2 of them. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
that's a close lead as well. So I mean, more impressive.
True.
I mean, again, it was just a good first half performance, which I think in the first 20, 25 minutes of the second half, they started really bright in the second half. Actually, they sort of came back out with that same impetus. And obviously, you watched the full match replay, didn't you? When you got home, they came out at the start of the second half with that same impetus of the first half, and I thought, okay, this is a different team to the one that won 3-0. They're going out for the kill here. And then bit by bit, they start to get broken down and Atlanta start to take control of the game. And then obviously the Shapiro in goal. How unlucky was he?
It looked like, I mean, it was just a poorly timed header. It really just kind of hit the back of his head as it went in. So yeah. I can't fault Casper. It happens to many players. It was just, I guess, a bad spot at the wrong time kind of thing. But it hurt for sure. The Union were not necessarily in the game, but they were still tied 0-0. They still had every chance to at least pull out the draw. So that one hurt for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I think there's one of those ones as well where he had 3 players in front of him. You're expecting one of those players to get their heads on it. You saw 2 players going for it. So Shibirka's probably sort of gone, okay, I've got to be ready for the next contact.
Yep.
The first contact never came, so he was getting ready, hit the back of his head. Unlucky goal. And I think Blake, obviously, people will look at Andre Blake and go, "Oh, he conceded 2 goals. Oh, he's not the best keeper in the MLS." But I mean, look at the 2 goals he conceded from the close range that they were, and how different. I mean, the second goal as well. Obviously, it was a poor man marking for the second goal. But the power that Anton Walkes headed the ball into the top corner, he just sort of had to feel sorry for Andre Blake. Thought he couldn't do anything about either goal.
That was one of the notes I had for that game in particular. I believe that was Burke's man who ended up scoring the second goal. So that's the thing too. So they score the second goal. Obviously, Burke had that bad moment. The ball gets put back into play, and they score within a minute and a half, 2 minutes, almost immediately after that goal. And Burke is the one who's there to answer the door and put it in the back of the net. So it was great to see him immediately recover that bad moment where they all could have just hung their head and called it a night.
Yeah. I think I said that to Jim. I said, was there anything that you said to those players after that second goal winning which perhaps lifted them? Because they play because I mean, you see a lot of teams in the MLS and in the game in general where they go 2 goals down with 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, heads drop, they know they've lost the game. They just sort of go with the win for the final period and just let the game dwindle out. Didn't see that with those Union players. They kept their tails up. They went straight on the attack, tested Guzan. And Corey Burke deserves so much credit for that. He's done what a lot of strikers don't do, but they should do. As soon as that shot goes off, go in on the goalkeeper. Because if he saves it, you're there for the rebound, which is what every good striker should do. Always go in on the rebound. And he anticipated the rebound, smashes it into the roof of the net, and it gives the Union something to sort of cling on to with those final 10 minutes to attack the game for.
It's funny you mentioned the charge in the net from a striker. So I don't know if you remember, there was I think it was the Red Bull game from a while back, the Ilsinho game, where Montero misses the penalty kick and it rebounds to Ilsinho and he puts in the back of the net.
Straight in.
And if I remember correctly, in an interview he had after that, he mentioned that when he one of his, I guess, tricks that he does is when the players line up for the penalty kick, he stands about 5 or 6 yards back of the 18 and he runs at the same time as the kicking player. So that way, when the ball is struck, he's also crossing the line at the same exact time, essentially at full speed. So it's great that you mentioned that with Burke. You want to see players who do the little bit extra to make an effort. If he doesn't do that, they don't score the goal. The game's over within 15 minutes.
I think the interesting thing with Burke is I think he looks better as a star than he does coming off the bench. I think he struggles to get into the game off the bench, whereas get to grips with the pace of the game off the bench. Whereas if he starts, he gets into the game. He accustoms himself, or he puts the pace of the game to how he's playing, in the sense, if that makes sense. So yesterday, he sort of controlled the game up front, where usually we see Shibirka. It was more the attack went through Corey Burke for spells in that first half yesterday.
Well, it's funny. I mentioned as well, I think either to you or somebody, Burke is a lot stronger than he looks. I mean, he does have a very slender frame, but he can muscle his way away from a defender very easily. So he's as strong, maybe not as strong, but he's got the strength of Santos, but he has the touch, I guess you could say, maybe of Casper. He's kind of a mixture of both of those players.
Yeah.
And I kind of like him better as a starter right now. Every time he starts, he seems to score or at least get close to scoring. So I want to see more from him. But here's the thing, though. I don't necessarily trust Santos off the bench. I would almost rather see Burke come off the bench when you need a goal compared to trusting Santos to do the same thing. So I think he should kind of come off and maybe bring 30 minutes a night.
Yeah, I think obviously I like the way that Santos obviously plays when he starts. I think when he came on yesterday, he had a couple of good runs, but I think I agree with you in the sense that I think Burke's probably looking more reliable. What I also like about the Union strikers is that they all contribute something different. Whereas with a lot of teams, you'll have 3 big guys or you'll have 2 small guys and a big guy. Whereas the Union, they've got the smaller, pacey guy. They've got the bigger guy in Jabirko who they can feed off and rely to win stuff in the air. And you've got Burke, who's a mixture of both, who can run with the ball, he can use his strength. And so his strength allows him to sort of build up his pace, if you know what I mean. You see some strikers who are big and strong but can't perhaps run as fast. He's strong, but I don't know how to describe it, but he's a strong, powerful player. You know what I mean? He uses his power to build his pace.
No, I can agree with that. I think you saw a bit of that last night as well. Jim has shown this previously. I cannot remember the game right now that he did it this year, and he's mentioned about having all 3 of them into the game at the same exact time. I would like to see Casper more at the 10 at times to see what Sergio and Burke can do at top and see what the 3 of them can do together. I think we only got a small glimpse of it. So especially with the injuries, if Flock goes, Fontana's still in concussion protocol. I would like to see that maybe once or twice in this next couple of weeks to see what could possibly happen. Maybe the three-headed monster can come out and put a goal in the back of the net.
It's something that could definitely be worth experimenting over these next few weeks. Obviously, the Union wouldn't be the only team to be impacted if those 4 players do make the Gold Cup. So again, it could be something they can experiment with. And then before we move on to looking at the Chicago game, unfortunately, my friend Sam's having technical issues with his Wi-Fi, so we can't come on the call this week. So hopefully we'll be able to get him on next week or in one of the following weeks. But before we move on, as we mentioned last week, again at the top of the show, at the end of the show last week, if the Union could come into this show with 4/6 points, we'd be happy. It would be very good. What does that do for their season? Not just in terms of the league table in the Eastern Conference, but their overall confidence as well. They're now 7 games unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we made a prediction last Thursday, we said 1-1 would have been a great Atlanta outcome. So we got that. We got the draw on the road, so I can't complain. Obviously, you took care of business at home. I'm feeling great about this team right now. I think it's great that they won a game as tough as Columbus, but they also won a game as dramatic as Atlanta because it shows you 2 different versions of toughness. It shows you that you don't give up. It shows you that you can get punched and still hold strong. So, and Jim mentioned this last night in the press conference. They didn't play that great yesterday. They really didn't. It wasn't a strong performance. Granted, they're playing Columbus. It's kind of expected. I got freaking gnats all over my face. But it's expected from a tough team like Columbus to maybe play a little bit worse than you would against Chicago. But they still held strong. The defense made their plays, and it was a great type of win in both scenarios, or at least points in both scenarios.
100%. And as I've said, a nice link into the game this weekend, where the Chicago Fire, obviously the Union went into Soldier Field, which is where they'll be playing again Sunday or Sunday morning for me. They put in a good performance. I think that might have been their best performance of the season so far. Well, they won 2-0. Corey Burke and Glasnes both scored, didn't they? There was 2 goal scorers that day. Looking into, obviously, the interesting thing about Chicago is obviously you look at the 2 games that the Union have played now, where they played Atlanta, where they're not looking good in the Eastern Conference at the moment, but they're a high standard team, they're a high reputable team, which you're going to get a tough game regardless of how they're doing. And you got Columbus Crew, who are the MLS Cup champions, and also have had a good start to the season. You now go to Chicago, who have the worst record in the MLS, 4 points across the season so far out of 9 games. They lost to FC Cincinnati last night, I believe. Do we look at this as like a sure thing, or are we not going? Do we the Union, or do we, as me and you, not underestimate them?
This is a game that screams trap game for a lot of fans. Honestly, I thought the game yesterday was a trap game. I thought they were going to be on a high from Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, Sunday. They're going to be on a high. They're going to come out flat, and they maybe were going to draw or, God forbid, lose, but they didn't. So this is another trap situation. You now are on a huge high. Not only did you have the Atlantic point, now you have the Columbus point. You were on the 3 points, I should say. You were in front of your home stands. Now you got to go play Chicago. You have to bring the same level of intensity, because the difference between a good team and a great team is that a great team does not play down to their competition. No. This should be a game that you can put away 2-0, no issues to Blake, and just kind of take care of business and go to the next one.
100%. As you said, it's a game they have to take care of. They have to take seriously. Obviously, Curtin was still quite positive, and he was quite showed he was quite positive about the Chicago. Didn't downplay the task it would be. Said they're a good side. They're good on the ball. They create a lot of chances, and they don't give up. They obviously had a goal disallowed against Cincinnati at the week last night in the later stages. So he credited them, said they don't keep fighting even if they're losing. So that's something that they'll have to watch out for. But I asked Jim as well. I said, obviously this would be their third game in 6 days. So that's literally a game every 2 days. Can we expect changes? Can we expect the Union to make some changes? And not changes, but obviously the team would, if you've got a midweek game, Jim will make 2 or 3 subs. Can we expect maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 in this game?
Well, I think you saw a bit of it already yesterday when they had the 2 early substitutions. You see a bit of the early kind of relieving of players to maybe keep them fresh for the weekend, especially with a hard game like you had in Atlanta. And obviously, yesterday was another tough game. So I believe you're going to see, maybe 1 or 2 changes in the starting lineup, possibly, depending on how Bedoya is doing. If Bedoya is okay, here's a question for you: if Bedoya is able to play, who do you start in his place?
I think he might go Quinn Sullivan.
Now, here's the issue with that, though, is now you have McGlynn and Sullivan on either side of the diamond. I mean, I want to see it because I just want to see how they do, but I don't want to see it because there's 2 teenagers playing diamond. It's but I mean, what other formation can you see out of this possible Chicago game?
I think you could potentially see like a 4-2-3-1 where you have Leon and say Quinn Sullivan sitting in front of the back 4, and then obviously you have the pace of, you can obviously sit Montero out wide on the left. You've got the pace of someone like Santos, where if you need to be, you can stick him out on the right hand side and he can attack. Or even Matt Real could start at one of those forward positions, as Curtin said. He's a very good attacking player. So I think I'm expecting to see the more changes. I'm obviously Gazdag, he might throw out the curveball, start Gazdag and shock everyone. But I'm expecting to see 3-4 changes, and I wouldn't be shocked if you see Quinn Sullivan make his MLS full debut. I think that if Bedoya is not good to go.
Yeah, I think the change of formation might be something you see. I agree. I didn't think about doing that. Yeah, I something is going to be different than what you've seen so far, for sure. Now, wait, really quick, because you mentioned, Chicago is obviously the weaker of the two teams. The line right now on FanDuel is Chicago plus 145 and Philly plus 150. So in terms of value, they're actually pretty even.
Yeah,
they're plus 5 difference. The draw is at plus 250, and obviously the spread favors Chicago. Chicago's -1 at plus 30. Yeah, Chicago's -1 at plus 430. Then the Union are +1 and -195, which I think with Burke and net, a +1 is pretty likely. Knock on wood. I'm not going to jinx it now.
I won't lie to you. I'm really shocked about that. I think the Union are a really good price. Good price.
I already put money down on the game, so yeah. So we'll see. I put money down on every Union game, no matter what. I don't care what the players are. I just do it for fun and just to see, what could happen
over a season.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, I think I know what your prediction is going to be for the game. Obviously, I presume you're going to have a Union win. What's your score prediction for the game?
it's going to depend on, now that you mentioned the change of formation, that does kind of put a bit of a hesitation in my prediction. I still think they pull out the win, or they should pull out the win. I would be okay with a draw, but I would not be thrilled by it. I think they should win this game, but because of the lack of rest, I'm not going to, completely kill these guys. But I think a 1-0 win is doable.
Yeah.
It's more than doable.
I'm going to go 2 or 3-1. I think they will get goals on the road. I think they'll get goals in this game. I think, obviously, Chicago, as Jim kept pointing out, they're an attacking team. They like to play on the front foot. And this is the sort of game with, as we've seen this season, Chicago haven't scored many goals.
No.
They're probably wasteful with their they seem a bit wasteful with their chances. This could be the perfect game for the Union to perhaps hit them on the counter-attack, Atlanta United style. Probably this would be the perfect game to start the likes of Sergio Santos and hit them on the break, use his pace to catch them.
Well, so one of the things you mentioned recently with, the Gold Cup coming up and with the just injuries and everything else in between, the back four is healthy and will be present, throughout this process. So you have Kai, Olivier, Elliott, and Glessens. As long as those four are back there in front of Blake or in front of whoever might be there, Bendik or Fries, I'm feeling pretty confident that the Union can keep it at least close. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they counter very well against Chicago.
Yeah, I think one more thing before we move on to the final part of the show.
Yeah.
On the defense, obviously they've all played every single game this season. It has to have taken its toll to an extent. Does he make a change or two? Does he start Stuart Findlay? Does he say to Alvis Powell, go give us 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and stick Bizo in for the last bit?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised. Maybe do a half and half, It's going to depend on the flow of the game, for sure. But I agree with you. Eventually, that's the reason why you brought in Powell. That's the reason why you brought in Findlay. You need to have depth behind the front four. They're not all going to stay healthy the entire year. It's just not likely. They need a rest. So yeah, I think you see at least one of them come. I want to see more Powell. He has MLS experience already.
Yeah.
He knows how to play in this league. So this might be the best chance to put him out there and see what he can do.
Absolutely, I think obviously if this was a home game, I would guarantee that he makes 5-6 changes and keeps it fresh. But I think because they're on the road, and it will be probably a good capacity at Soldier Field, I think he won't risk as much as he might have done if he was at home. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do really with the injuries they've got. Maybe seeing Gazdag start. It obviously opens up a lot of different wormholes to how they're going to approach the game. So I think it's a game that definitely you would want to look out for and how they approach it on Saturday night.
And that kind of gives me some concern to the outcome of the game. If you do have 2, 3, 4 different players, you have the lack of chemistry, especially with someone like Powell or Gazdak, who does not have a lot of experience with his teammates. Will there be miscommunication? How will they, develop? Or even if you have Sullivan and McGlynn, inexperienced players playing in an away game is tough. So maybe that's why the line is so close. Maybe they expect a lot of changes, which obviously diminishes the chemistry between this starting lineup.
Oh, absolutely. And now, obviously, before we end the show, we'll go through our sponsors, all about the Birds sponsors. Start off with Manscaped. If you're looking for the perfect gift for your man, why not get him the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0? You heard that right. The Lawnmower 4.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. Imagine surprising your man with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized body hair trimmer that says, your balls will thank you. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code AATBirds. Then obviously with OddsJam is the #1 software platform for sportsbook bandits. Their software shows you how to make risk-free cash off FanDuel, DraftKings, and other books with the arbitrage calculator. Never lose a bet again and sign up today at oddsjam.com. And then obviously with Statement Games, check out Statement Games Incorporated for a fun new way for fantasy sports and entertainment. Win gift cards and prizes, and it's free to sign up. So sign up now with the link below. And then with 99 jerseys, you can get 20% off your next order by using the discount AATBirds20. Check out their wide selection of quality kick-ass jerseys of your favorite sports, movie characters, and throwback jerseys of some of your favorite stars. Again, order at 99jerseys.com and save 20% off by using the discount AATBirds. with the the All About the Birds shop. Get your across the pitch gear with our show and the All About the Birds, all the All About the Birds network gear from all our shows at aatbirds.com/shop. And then finally, with the All About the Birds social media, follow, like, and subscribe and share all the All About the Birds social media platforms for the greatest and latest content on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If you missed a show recently, you can catch all our content on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to get notified of new content and leave us a review. Obviously, thank you again so much for listening to the show this week, guys. We've appreciated your support, and hopefully next Thursday we'll be coming back on to review another positive Union result against Chicago, looking at all the big news that's gone on in the week. Hopefully we might have a signing. We could have Jose Martinez back with the team next week, maybe. Some positive injury news, and we'll preview our game against Nashville. Is this the first game against Nashville the Union have had, or second?
I feel like it's the first. I don't remember ever playing them before. So I want to say, yeah, definitely. Can I just say real quick, the British accent on the sponsor reads, it sounds a lot better than mine does. So so definitely like that. But also want to shout out to Mike Devlin, our producer. Great job. Cannot forget. I forgot him last week. I will not forget him this time. Good job, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much again. Obviously, thanks again, Mike. He's the backbone behind our show. Wouldn't be able to do this without him. He's done an incredible job so far. So make sure to follow our guy, Mike. I think it's at Mike Devlin12 on Twitter. Let me get that up. Yeah, at Mike Devlin12 on Twitter. Make sure to follow him for all things All About the Birds. And thank you so much for listening.
Yep. Thanks, guys.